G'day and welcome to the JadeRat. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we're going to do a quick book review, and by quick I mean I'll try and see how long it'll take. Hopefully it won't take too long, but of course with everything that's going on in the world it's very crazy. So here we've got One Piece Volume 1, and for me personally, I think this is one of the greatest books that you could ever pick up. This is one of the best series that you could ever pick up, and especially now where the ideas of humanity and friendship and togetherness is really important. One Piece is a really good pickup for this crazy time that we're living in now. One of the best things, and I would rate this an almost perfect score, this would probably be like a 93, 92 maybe percent and score. And the reason why I would give it an almost perfect score is that it is great. It's got all of the wonderful sort of heartfelt moments. It's got an incredibly likable character, and who is Luffy, and we've also got two other very likable characters. And it starts off this sort of great adventure story from these humble beginnings. It's very nostalgic, especially for those who have grown up with the series. This is one of those things that you revisit and you look back and you see how far everybody's come, how far people have grown. And this is the back here, and you really get to get this sense of knowing how far you've come, and by going along the journey with them you get to see how far you've come. This is the side with Luffy, and it's really wonderful to see that how Eiichiro Oda, the author and artist behind One Piece, sort of brings to life these characters and how they've grown and developed into something that is meant so much to so many people, and myself included. I started watching One Piece over 10 years ago now, and it's been a journey to see from this little boy on a little dinghy rowing his way across the ocean to where we are now. And I believe this covers the first 5 chapters from memory. And I'll get it up for you. Oh no, more. Yeah, okay. Chapters 1 to 8 are in this volume, and it is flipped because it is in the manga format, so it's read from right to left as opposed to left to right. And the first 8 chapters are really wonderful. The only thing, and I think this is mentioned in a recent video that I saw by a YouTuber called Totally Not Mark, and they reviewed One Piece for the first time, and they said something along the lines of there's a lot of exposition. There's this gag where Luffy, the main character, he's so wonderfully simple-minded, and he doesn't understand something that's happening, and then another character will have to explain it to them. And this is largely because if you're an adult reader, you probably have figured most of this out by now. You probably know who the characters are. You can probably make the connections between what's happening with supporting characters, what's happening with the main characters, and so on. However, because this series is originally oriented towards that sort of middle, early to middle teenage category, it is aimed at younger readers. So there's a lot of exposition, there's a lot of telling of how characters are interconnected, and then he uses this rather cleverly through Luffy, who is doesn't understand the situation. So it gets explained again, and it helps the younger readers sort of catch on to and figure out whether they have a confusion or not on who the villain is and why they're bad. So it's explained pretty straightforward. Other things that I would like to say is that it is long. The series is long and it often prevents people from starting. However, the stories, especially in the first couple of volumes, are incredibly compelling and surprisingly simple. Without spoiling anything, the stories simply involve rescuing someone or telling, pretty much standing up to a bully. And they don't have any sort of further implications. So I just burped. Because of the sort of vast expanse of One Piece that it is currently, a lot of the actions that the characters take now, as of chapter 900 and something, is generally has these really grand scale implications, or there's always a connection between something that has been established before, and it always contributes to the larger narrative. But here we don't have that larger narrative yet, so it's very straightforward. It's very simple, the story, but the storytelling is very exciting. I think compared to other sort of manga or adventure series, sort of like if I were to make a comparison between another well-known series called Naruto, the main character interactions and sort of the motivations are almost similar. There's like, you know, the simple underdog who wants to dream for something big, or in this case to be the king of the pirates, or in Naruto's case to be the leader of his village. They sort of have a similar story in the sense that it's a similar character. It's a shonen character, so a lot of the beginnings are the same. However, the way that it's told, I think, is a lot more compelling in One Piece. Eiichiro Oda, he has this wonderful ability to really create this strong emotional connection with the characters. For example, here on my wall, we've got Don Quixote do Flamingo, a character that will appear later, but through the masterful storytelling that is done here, and sort of the attention to detail, there's stories within stories, and there's stories within the cover artwork, and at the start of each chapter there is a different sort of there's little illustrations here of him with an ostrich, and it really gives this sense of adventure and feeling, and there's a sort of completeness to the story. Unlike, for example, Harry Potter, I think I'll make this comparison with Harry Potter, is that he is a simple boy who is sort of thrown into this world, and we're discovering the world as he is discovering it. But for One Piece, it's different. It's this world is already there. Everything that will come into play later is already set up, in the sense that it may not be revealed to the main characters, but it is sort of, we as the audience will see it happen, and we'll see how these different strands are interwoven. And the beginning of this is really interesting in that there are things that you don't consider, and as someone who is a follower of the series and who's almost up to date with the show, there are things that especially when you're doing a reread or something that you are a bit further in the story, going back to this book will mean that you are now picking up on things that you didn't realize, and that's largely because of the way that the story is written. Eiichiro Oda, and I'm going to refer to these three characters because they're the three that appear in this story, in the first 8 chapters, is you can almost instantly tell by just looking at their images the type of people that they are. The characters are really well fleshed out, and you get this really good sense of who they are and sort of what their vibe is. And this will continue. This is a have finished volume 2, and I plan to do a review for that. But the beginning is really strong, and and a lot of people believe that if you sort of get through the first 100 chapters, you're pretty much sold on One Piece, and that is true. There's the first 8 are here, and they're exciting. If you're quite young at heart, you might even laugh out loud at some of the panels in this book, in this manga, and it's quite large. There's almost 200 pages in here, so you can read this as a leisurely thing. You can go through a chapter a day, and it's a very easy read. And the artwork, which is something that I do have to point out because it is a manga, it's very heavily stylized for an era that has passed, in the sense that this is created in the late 90s, but it has this sort of vibe, this sort of art style that is very reminiscent of older series. So it's got this nostalgic, very light-hearted, early days sort of vibe. And for the most part, that is one of the most endearing things about the start. It's that you're following this story, you're following the humble beginnings of something that goes on to almost 1,000 chapters at this point, but it's just the first 8, and it's such an exciting journey. And yeah, once again, the only takeaways are that the language is a little bit, and the story is a little bit simplified, and that's largely because of the younger audience. And many people are intimidated by its length. But if you are new to manga or adventure series, it's about pirates, but not as we know them. So this is what we would consider sort of fantasy pirates. It's an incredible world to jump into, and I would wholeheartedly recommend this for anyone interested in getting a really good, wholesome story with wonderful characters, very enjoyable characters, villains and heroes alike. And that's about it for One Piece Volume 1. Hopefully sometime soon I will get around to Volume 2, and then we'll read Volume 3 and maybe some other books as well. And I'll also try to squeeze in an art video sometime between these book reviews. So if you want to subscribe, or don't, it doesn't matter. All good for me, and I will see all of you, I'm looking at the wrong place, all of you later.